Good evening, everyone. Hope you're well. I am so glad you could join us this evening. Put away the beer garden, put away the deck chair, get back inside and get on the construction clinic with me and Tony. That's what it's all about. You guys are the most serious in property because you're not enjoying the sun out there. You've taken your time to come and learn a bit from the master that is Tony Walker.
We've
And
we've got aircon in this Teams as well.
you've got aircon.
No, in the meeting we've got aircon. We can pretend we've got aircon.
Well, I know I'll be blowing a lot of hot air, so yeah, I'm in a really good mood this afternoon, and the reason is because last night at 11 o'clock, while I was doom scrolling through TikTok, I came across fasting and intermittent fasting, and I do it anyway. We decided to do a 24-hour fast, and then realized how hard it was, and got 22 hours into it, and had something to eat. So it's actually put me in a fantastic mood for this evening. So I'm really excited about it.
Fair play, mate.
But really glad you guys could join us. The chat is now open. So you will be able to drop your questions into Tony. If you want to get a bit of networking, if you want to tell us what it is that you do, what your problems are with your build, then we will answer them live on the call, or Tony will, and we'll try and diagnose the problem right here, right for you tonight. And that's basically what it is all about, is making sure you guys have got a live session to come forward, put your problems to Tony, and we can try and help you so that you can move a lot faster to the finish line with your build or your retrofit project, whatever it is you're doing in property. Me and Tony have been working together for the past 18 months. He's become a really good friend of mine. And I'm so pleased that we could bring this to you tonight. Tony's got a few things he's going to talk about and share with you. And we've also had some questions written in from UK Homes Network members, which we'll also kick things off with. So please do make sure that you put in the chat any questions that you want to submit to Tony. Maybe it's a live project that you're working on at the moment, or something that you've previously worked on that you need questions. You've got questions that you need answers to. We'd love to hear from you. So we'll get things underway in just a second. Tony, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Chris. It's nice to have a bit of cooler weather today, isn't it? I know everybody's talking about the weather, but yeah, it's a lot nicer temperature than it was yesterday.
Yeah, I don't feel it because I'm in one of these sort of Victorian terraces, and it radiates heat and then loses heat in the winter.
Don't buy a new build and don't turn your garage into an office.
Yeah, yeah, because the garage door just basically pumping
But no,
heat.
I switched it, but I don't know why. It just seems to like hold. It's really nice. We've got no sun on it in the morning, so it stays cool all morning, and then come the afternoon, it's like a sauna. But yeah, it's every year, every summer, I say I'm going to invest in air conditioning, and then I go no, and I'm going to do it in the winter, and then I get to next summer and I still have not done it.
Well, my mum's got a newish style build, and she did a half and half. So she put a stud wall up in the garage, and yeah, every single time I go round and it's cold weather outside, she's like, "There's a draft in here, and I don't know where it's coming from." I'm like, I can tell you exactly where it's coming from." But there you go.
Love it.
So, yeah, guys, we're really excited to have Tony on. So please do put your introductions and your questions into the chat, and we'll get round to those as soon as possible. Tony, you're going to do a bit of an introduction for us.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see if a great technology works and share. Do, do, do. Is my screen sharing all right, Chris? No?
Just coming through now.
Do, do, do. Great. Are we good?
Yeah, we're there.
Superb. So, welcome everyone to the very first construction clinic. This was a bit of a brainchild, really, of me and Chris over a drink on another quite warm day from memory, actually. It was quite a nice sunny day that day. And yeah, it was kind of an idea where we really wanted to try and what we've done. Chris has done way more than me, but I've started doing a lot of webinars, and the Q&A section is actually the best bit, and it's actually my favorite bit. So we wanted to avoid, even though I'm about to show you a few slides, I wanted to avoid the slide and just get people really interactive. So we want the construction clinic to grow. Our biggest aim is to hopefully turn this into 1 or 2 a month. We've already booked the next one in, where we might actually start to get panels involved and specialist subjects. So if you enjoy it, tonight, please spread the word, because we're not looking to turn this into a real huge and sort of money making scheme. This is about getting out there and helping people with their projects, whether you're a self builder, developer, or even a contractor. And let's hope that we can get a few people on board over the coming months and turn this into a really regular event. So further or not, so I will do this as a real flyby. Just a little bit about me for those who don't know me. I am the director and founder of Help Build Limited. We're just under 2 years old. Believe it or not, I know I don't look it, but I'm 35 years of age and I live in Shropshire. Everything I do is for my family. The last 12 months we've discovered van life, and we live our weekends for on the beach. And sadly, my biggest hobby apart from that is DIYing, but also barbecuing as well. So that's a little snapshot into me and who I am. So why should you listen to me, and why do I kind of know what I'm talking about? It's actually turned to 18 years in construction now. I've worked for a mixture in those times of builders merchants, and then I went over to contracting. So I've been on both sides of the counter, and I understand. I've dealt with contractors all my working career. So that's from small one-man bands to multi-million-pound businesses. I've personally managed projects from £5,000 to £1 million, and that's a mixture of commercial and residential. Uh, and I've also carried out my own self-build project. That's my kitchen open plan area in the middle photo, and it's I've lived and breathed construction for most of my life, and together with my previous role and Help Build, I've estimated well over £100 million worth of projects. So it's I kind of know what I'm talking about. I started Help Build with one aim, and as cheesy as it sounds, it was to help more people build. When I started the business, I didn't actually 100% know which direction I wanted to go in, but I knew I wanted to support contractors and developers and self-builders. The main services we offer at Help Build are purchasing services, budget and estimating, so QS work, training and support, and remote project management. So ultimately, anything to do with the build of your project, I can assist with. So that was really a little whistle stop tour into me and Help Build. One of the things we've developed in this time is an online course. Now, before everybody runs away and gets all, oh my God, what's that? So I just wanted to give you a real brief overview of what our online course is. And basically, it's over 5 hours of footage, very much in a similar format of this. So if you can relate to this type of thing, then you will really enjoy the course. It's split into 15 to 25-minute videos, and so it's really easy to follow. The reason I did it is I actually took an accountancy course for limited businesses when I started my business. And the great thing about that was I learned it through this same platform. And every time I ate my sandwich every day, I watched another module. So I kind of understood the grasp of it. And now, anytime I'm a bit unsure about something, I go back to that module. And he actually became my accountant in the end, because I related to him so much. So that made me think, so many people go into construction knowing the bare minimum, and construction now, you used to be able to do a rear extension for 15 grand. It's triple that now. And people invest lifetime savings, they remortgage, they do property developments and risk a lot of money, but do they really understand construction? And so all I did was create a very basic online course, which I will show you now. Can everyone still see my screen? Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So basically, we divided it into 4 modules. So we talk about let's get started. We talk about architects, different types of architects, because not many people know when you say I need an architect for a project, you might not need the same one for every project. We talk about key people, ideas, inspiration. So if we click into key people, for example, it gives you a video. This one is 23 minutes long. And basically, it tells you all the key people you may need in a construction project. And then we talk about structural engineers, but then I also give you the links of how to find structural engineers. So it's a one-stop shop to kind of understand what you might come to a project. I need a structural engineer. How do I go and find one? I remember now, we talked about it in the course. And that's how I've produced the course. And I've got down to basically, go back, real bite-sized modules. And the favorite one of mine is your project costs. So here I'll run through an actual budget and how to budget a build, and then I give you the resources to download it. So I'm not, I'm not changing the wheel here. I'm not looking to, by the end of it, you're not going to be able to go and set up a construction firm. But if you're carrying out a construction project, you're going to understand a little bit better. You're going to feel more comfortable about if a builder asks for money, how you should pay them, your role in building control, how to put a budget together, and it's going to make you feel comfortable right from the start. One thing I've learned with dealing with many clients over the years is the amount of people who start to feel very nervous that they don't understand the process. And when you're exchanging tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of pounds, it's quite a nerve-wracking thing to do with very little knowledge. So we also talk about builders, contractors, how to find them, how to pay them, how to find the good ones, and how to make them want to work for you. We've got a question about that later, so I'll go into a bit more detail. We talk about building materials, how to buy your own, should you buy your own, big ticket items, what you can and can't do, how to get the best prices. And then we talk about the actual build. So we talk about managing your project, keeping your project on track, managing your budget, building control, and then mistakes, and also snagging sign off and completion. And again, what you'll notice is it's the same spreadsheet which follows through. I don't use complicated project management software. I keep it simple with Excel spreadsheets, which allows everybody the tools to manage their project effectively. So the course itself is usually 249, and that includes all your resources and everything. But as a special for the first construction clinic, we are going to do this at £125, and that gives you lifetime access. There's no time limits on it. If you want to do that, we'll put a link in the chat later that you can go to. And if you use the offer code of clinic125, that will give you the course for 125, and that is live till midnight on Friday. But not only that, with that price, I will also give you a free 1 hour call with me for any one-to-one advice I can give you. So tonight we're going to do a snapshot of questions, but if you've got projects coming up, it would be great to get you involved and to see if I can help you further. So really for 125, it's great value, but see what you think. If you want to have a bit more detail on what the course involves, drop me a message and I can contact you at a separate time and we can talk through it. And as I said, that offer runs until Friday at midnight. So I just wanted to give you a bit of overview really of the course and what it entails, and it also, it might start you to realize why I'm doing this. It's why we're doing these webinars. It's to help people. That's genuinely what we're setting out to do. It's to help people feel more comfortable with the build.
Right. Yeah. So guys, if you're looking to build your confidence and carry on your confidence after today, obviously Tony's going to be answering your questions in just a second. But if you'd like to sort of find the tools and be able to do it for yourself, and have that confidence when you're going into your next project, then please do look at this course, because it is going to massively help you, specifically around the budget and estimating stuff. Is just incredible, the resources that are in there, let alone all the other material and resources that Tony gives you. So we're going to go straight into our questions. Now, I'm going to go to our first one, which was sent in to us by Jazz. And Jazz has asked, my builder is asked me for randomly for payments. Is this right? So my builder asked me randomly for payments. Is this right?
No. So what I'd suggest, what I've picked up from that question is potentially Jazz's builder has started the project, and rather than having a formulated payment plan, that makes it sound like a finance, I don't mean it like that. His builder's going on a Friday. I need £2,000 this week, Jazz. Then he gets to Wednesday. I need another £5,000 for materials. This is a massive red flag. Where Jazz has gone wrong, though, is that project has started and he hasn't had a payment plan put forward. So my biggest advice to everybody is, one, on a large scale project, I'm not talking about small, couple of day jobs, that runs differently. But if you're having anything, with scale done, 50% or upfront is a bit of a red flag. So if you're having £100,000 project, your contract, £100,000 project, your contractor doesn't need 50k upfront. He may ask for 10 upfront for materials, but make sure that's officially invoiced to you, so you've got that in writing. The best way of doing paying your builders is, and your trades on large scale projects, is either agree a scheduled payment plan. So if the project, for instance, is £100,000 and it's going to last for, let's say, 10 weeks, every 2 weeks you're going to pay £20,000, or, it's not unusual for the contractor to turn around and go, actually, it's a bit more heavier up front or in the middle because of the type of works. But as long as it's all agreed and you're comfortable with it, and also with a month left, say, you've only got £5,000 left to pay, make sure it feels right with the project. The best way of doing it is, if you've got a full schedule of works, is to line by line, and if the contractor has quoted it, so you've got footings, you've got brickwork to damp, you've got concrete pad, and all those lines are priced, ask for a valuation method. So basically then every, say, 2 weeks, you and your contractor, or your contractor, will value the work, what has been done on site, and you pay for that. That is the safest bet for you and the contractor, because the contractor doesn't run up tens of £1,000s worth of bills before you pay. So it looks after both parties. Now, you might need somebody to manage that for you, which can add an extra cost in, but talk to your contractors for accommodating. But in terms of the question of he's asking the payments all over the place, the issue there is you've gone into a build and you've not agreed a payment schedule. And now it's going to be very difficult to get that back on track. So payment schedules or valuation processes are the best way forward.
Brilliant. Dawn has submitted a question through the chat. So guys, if you have got questions or you've got a scenario that you'd like to put to Tony to diagnose during this construction clinic, please do. Dawn was straight out of the traps with a fantastic question for us. So I need to know how I can put stairs on a 4-story build on the back so I can split the building into 2 3-bedroom apartments for Airbnb use.
When are we able to dial Dawn in? Is she happy to speak?
Yeah, Dawn said that so Dawn, if you want to raise your hand, if you want to come on the call, great. I'll allow you to talk now.
Perfect.
So Dawn, you're on mute. No, you're not.
Hi, Dawn, you okay?
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Thanks, Chris. I'm not sure whether. Okay, thank you very much for having me on. Unfortunately, I don't think I can show you the picture, but it's a traditional 4-story, huge Victorian on the ocean front. Basically, it's on the front.
Yeah.
And so it's got a its own entrance to the front, to the basement apartment. And then the back used to have, if you can imagine, the back used to have the metal fire escape that went up. Okay, so that's not on there anymore. But what I want to try and do is, I'm looking at the plan and I'm trying to figure out a way that I could, that I could try and get stairs that could go up the back. But I don't want to go all the way up to the 4th floor. I don't want to go like the metal emergency stairs for, you know, I don't want to do that. I wanted to maybe go to the second floor, and where the window is, open that up to a door so I could create um, two apartments. So the first apartment would be the first and you know, the ground and the first floor, and then the second one. So I could create some kind of a, I mean, is that something that I should just forget, or is it something that you think would be doable? The next house over, I've noticed it's like two Victorians together. What the builder's done there is he's just basically brought the whole building out, and I think he's like, the stairs are actually, you can't see them. They're behind brick. You can't see the stairs that go up. And
so they've built an internal staircase
yeah,
basically on the back of the house.
exactly, yeah.
So are you, so in terms of your how, is the how do you go about doing it, or is your what would you do for the construction of it?
The how is would be, how would it really break my budget? Because I've already had the quote for the roof. It's got to have a whole new roof, and then I've already had a quote for the basement because it had water in the basement last year. So that's, I mean, that's totally rectifiable because there was an old elderly lady living in it before, so she didn't bother about putting any guard up or anything from the water, whereas the other houses have. So that's totally fixable. It's got to have a new floor and membrane and all of that, which I've got a quote for that. That's okay. But in order for it to really be a good return of investment for me, I'd really like to split that big building into two luxury 3-bedroomed apartments, and the only way that I can see doing it is to put the stairs in the back, because there's no way that I can split those two apartments up on, you know, going in through the front door. I can't do it.
Okay, so
It just wouldn't
ultimately
work.
then, to do it how the other house has done it and build a structure will be costly, because
Yeah,
you're gonna, in effect, you'll have to build a full structure, which will require footings, it will require brickwork,
and
um,
it'll
potentially
be,
not fall under permitted development, it may do.
mm.
So as far as I'm aware, because these will be the permanent access to the property, will it? Not fire
Yeah,
escape.
and I'm sure I'm sure I'd get approval, because you know, if the houses next door have got it,
Yeah.
and other one. Now, on the other side, there's a row of them. On the other side, the people have actually built a really nice metal staircase, but it's bigger. It's not like it's not just like you know, an escape route. It's like a proper one. It's got kind of like a bit of a balcony on.
Yeah.
So maybe I could go that route, and you know,
Yeah, in terms of breaking the budget, metal staircases are not that expensive. So
mm,
you can have it done so it can look quite, decent. You could have it powder coated in black if it suits for more Victorian. It
yeah,
won't, to build a structure is going to cost you thousands and thousands.
yeah.
Uh, Whereas to build an actual staircase with almost, as you said, like a balcony coming out on, won't break the bank. From as far as
Probably
I'm aware,
looking at
it
about
won't.
20 or 30 for
It's
that.
what, sorry?
I'd probably be looking at about 20 or 30 rather than going in the hundreds.
What,
'Cause
for the whole development or just for
no,
the
no,
staircase?
for the staircase. No.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
You could probably do a structure for that.
Okay.
So I personally, have you got a builder involved in the project yet?
Actually, well, no, because my construction, well, should I say my construction guy, I think that this would be out of his realm.
Okay.
I do have a contact. My brother, he's Portable Cabins Limited. So regarding the
Okay.
staircase, yeah, that's what he did. I mean, he's
I,
had that.
I would, yeah, I would go for first route, of course. I would go and contact whoever your brother uses for his. Get them to do you an indicative price, because more than likely they'll be able to do the design, the price, and also I'd just recommend giving the planning department locally a call tomorrow, and just check. I don't think you'll need planning for it, but it's just
No,
worth.
no, because they were there before. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
But
Yeah.
I don't think you'll break the bank on that. I think actually employing the only thing you might find you need an additional is a concrete pad to fix it to, depending on the substrate underneath. But I
Oh,
actually don't
yeah.
think you'll
Yeah.
break
Yeah.
the bank. I think if you've got fabricators to
Hmm.
design, make, and
Hmm.
install it, I think you'll be under your 30.
Okay, great, great. Thanks for that. And
All right.
I mean, I didn't know what to expect coming on here, so I'll just say right now, I think it's great what you're doing.
Thank
I
you.
will mention it to some of my colleagues, who are they do all kinds of property investments. So they do buy land and build and stuff like that. So if I'll find out, you said you'll be doing maybe one or two a month. That might be really, really
Yeah,
good if
well,
I can.
we'll just double check this, but the next one I think, Chris, we have booked in for the 22nd.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris, I don't know how you found me, but it's great. I'm really happy that you did. I don't know how I came across you, but I'm really glad I did, because I've got another project. It's I've got to secure the land yet, but I think this is where I would probably really take advantage of the offer that you've got on there. Is there's a piece of land near me, where I'd really like to build 3 townhouses. So it's already got planning permission for 3 townhouses. So I'm like looking at that. If I could secure that piece of land, and then that's where I think that whole build job from top to bottom would really help as well. But so
100%.
yeah. So, but I really appreciate you answering that question. It's just like I didn't really quite know.
Dawn, are you a member of UK Homes Network?
Do you know, I honestly do not know. I-
Well, we'd love to keep up to date with the land that you're buying, and obviously the Victorian seafront property.
yeah,
So
yeah.
if you get a second when you come off the call, search for UK Homes Network in
I've
your
just put the link in the chat for you, Chris.
yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I will. I will. And I'd like to, yeah, absolutely. Because like I said, I'm really not sure how I mean, you've got my email, so I must be registered unless, you sent something out. But yeah, I think, I was like, oh, should I come on this? It might just be for new builds and might not be
No,
something
it's
that,
not.
would be, you know, uh good for me. But I'm actually even thinking next time, Tony, to bring on my the construction person that is doing my refurbs and stuff, and he's just getting started. So that might be something that if he joined yours, then he could get the information that he needs when he's doing the refurbs for me
100%.
and stuff like that. So I mean, I think it's been really good me coming on for sure. And I'll stay on and listen to what you've got to say as well.
That's great,
Absolutely.
Dawn.
So,
Superb.
Well, thanks for joining us, Dawn. I really, really appreciate it. We'll get that link in the chat for you to join UK Homes Network.
yeah.
Should have done a bit of an intro to that at the start. So UK Homes Network is the first social media platform exclusively for the property industry. So it's a bit like LinkedIn or Facebook, but purely for property people, so that you can
Oh,
promote
right.
what it is that you're doing, share your projects, talk about what's happening in the industry, and most importantly, find support like people like Tony, who are posting daily in the platform. So yeah, we'll make sure we get you in there, Dawn, and
Okay, great.
get your updates on those projects. Can't wait for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dawn. Really appreciate it. So, guys, yeah, if you would like to put your questions in the chat, that would be great. Or you can come on, raise your hand, just like Dawn has, and we can get you to submit your question live to Tony. Just while we wait for you guys to either get your questions ready, or
Don't be shy.
yeah, don't be shy. We've got another question sent in via email from one of our UK Homes Network members. Just bear with me a second while I pull that up. So so this is from Mike. I'm refurbishing a property and I've decided I want to knock a wall out between the dining room and the kitchen. I used to see this so much as an estate agent. It's all that open plan living. Love it. How do I do this?
Oh, what a question. If I had £1 for every time I see this answered in Facebook groups, I wouldn't need to do any other work. So, right. So there's two things to do here. Don't go knocking it down without finding out first. So the first thing to do is the famous knock on the wall. Does it feel hollow or does it feel solid? Now, just because it feels hollow does not mean you can knock it down. So the official advice is you need to instruct a structural engineer. You don't need an architect. You'll need to instruct a structural engineer to find out if that is a supporting wall or not. They will then tell you what is required. So if it is a supporting wall, it will need a steel more than likely. And with that, they will do you the design for the steel needed. And then you will be able to go to a contractor and obtain a price to get the works done. The only other thing you will need to do then, if it is a structural alteration, you will also need building control. Now, they don't charge a lot. It's usually no more than £500 for that. But the structural engineer will need to, sorry, the building control officer will need to see the structural engineer's plan. And they will also need to check that it's been installed as per that. And if there's any other regulations which are being done. So 9 times out of 10, you don't need an architect unless all of a sudden you're starting to mess with fire eggs, etc. But if it is just genuinely a kitchen to a dining room, the only way that will change is if the stairs to the property are then linked to the kitchen, because it changes fire. But that's a real overcomplicating it. If they're on the call, we could ask that question, but we'll take it that they're not. So if it's not a structural wall and it's not holding anything up, and the structural engineer says, no, it's okay, and you could ask your contractor to confirm that. But if it was me, I would always get the structural engineer to double check it. If it's not supporting, you don't need any structural support. You do not need building control, and your contractor or your builder, or you, if you're a self-builder, can go ahead and remove the wall. So if it needs to be supporting, structural engineer, design, get it priced, contractor carry out the works, but building control also need to oversee the works and sign it off as complete.
Schoolboy error there. Put myself on mute and didn't realise. That was awesome. So yeah, Mike, I hope that answers your question. We've got another one sent in here from Debbie. Oh, this might be of interest to you, Dawn. We have just put an offer in on a new build plot. It's 100 meters squared. How much will it cost to build?
Wow, that's an open-ended question. How long have we got tonight? Okay, so budgets, and again on this very similar Facebook groups, the amount of times you see how much will this cost, and you get the biggest variation of answers. So when it comes to new builds, they're a little easier to price. However, there's a lot of factors what come into this. It's location. For one, because up and down the country, for example, London is on average between 15 and 20% dearer than the Midlands, and certain areas of the UK also kind of map. So location is one. Number two, it's the type of build and specification. Is it just a standard brick block build, nothing fancy? Or is it a fancy zinc cladded roof, composite cladding walls, aluminium windows? That cost is going to be down here, and then your other cost is going to be around there. If I was going to throw the square meter rate at, which I hate that word, it's absolutely, I really oppose against it. On average, it's £2,400 to build a new build. However, that is dependent on how you're building it. If you're employing a main contractor, it's going to be at the higher rate. If you're self-building and getting subcontractors in, buying all your own materials, taking on a project yourself, it'll be less, providing you do it right. But then there's also, if you start adding in the mix of ground conditions, are they standard footings? Is there a lot of groundworks involved pre-build? Is it a flat plot? Add all these in, and that's when you start getting different fluctuating costs. So one thing I would advise is if you are new to doing a ground up development and you've never done it before, employ somebody like us or an estimator, or get into bed with a contractor, not literally, but a builder who's going to potentially work with you on developments and get them to cost it properly. Because it pays dividends. And also, if you're going to finance that through development finance, you will need a priced schedule of works. They will not allow a one-liner, especially if you're inexperienced. Once you get in with finance companies, you'll get a revolving credit, and once you've done 3 or 4, they'll trust you. But if you're new to it and it's your first time doing this, they'll want to see how you priced up that build. And also then if you start adding connections onto it and all sorts, there's so much involved in it. If you find a new build plot, you don't know how to price it, employ somebody to do that. You know, for me, for example, on a standard plot, it is, you know, that sort of build will cost no more than £350, £400 for me to do a full schedule of works for. So when you're thinking of investing over 200 with the plot of land, 300, £400,000, it's a no-brainer for me.
Brilliant. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, and really detailed considering how vague it was. So that's brilliant. Thanks very much. But I know what I mean. As an estate agent, we used to just go a third. So if you're looking to work out how much, you know, you should offer, it should be a third of the build should be a third of the land should be a third. Yeah.
I wish it was like that now. Give you an idea, I know we're deviating a little bit here, but there's a plot of land, there's a house with a plot of land with planning permission for, basically the existing house is a 3-bed and they've got planning permission for another 3-bed next to it. And I went to have a look at it because it's very local to me. And I actually worked out that the gross development value was around about 620, 630k. And that was me doing it myself, pulling in, you know, people I know. The end value sale price was 610. And they're the figures the estate agent gave me, what they'd be worth at the end. So I rang them up and went, something's wrong here. You've got nothing in it. No, that's the price. I went, but I'm telling you now, it's going to cost you more to buy and build and refurb than the end value price. Like, yeah. I was like, oh, wow. And there's so many plots like that at the minute, and it's becoming very, very hard to negotiate deals.
Yeah, we used to see that all the time, because what happens is that, you know, they come into acquiring a small patch of land, get planning for a couple of houses on it, decide not to build it themselves, and then they'll go up the high street and speak to the estate agent who doesn't deal with land on a daily basis. You know, they value it just the way I said it.
Yeah.
And, you know, then it just sits on the market for 12 to 18 months in the hope that someone will come for it. And then, you know, depending on the situation of the person who owns the land, it might have to go to auction. So, yeah,
100%.
dead interesting. So we've got our next question up from Dave. I keep getting different rates from my merchant. I'm assuming that's builder's merchant, and I can't track to know if it's right. Shall I just use B&Q or Wix? So at least I know the price I'm paying.
Ooh, pricing consistency. So pricing consistency is an absolute nightmare for people within builders merchants. It has been for years. So short answer, if you're only spending no more than £1,000 a month and you just want a simple life, you can get trade accounts at Wix's and you can get trade accounts at B&Q, and the prices are okay. You're not going to be paying over the odds, least you know what you're paying. So yes, if you're a smaller maintenance, smaller cost, yeah, go ahead and do it. The long part of the answer is no, don't. Pricing consistency all needs to be done at the start. So the best way of doing this is agreeing your prices before you buy. And that's what we do when we offer our procurement purchasing services. Is you know, if it's under £100, yeah, the guys tend to go in and collect. And then I still have to argue, you know, now with merchants and go, you've charged me £16 for a roll of blue roll. I can go on Amazon and buy 6 rolls for £8. You know, and I am very realistic as well. I understand merchants have overheads, so sometimes you do pay a little more than on certain items, but you know, not those massive fluctuations. So I do understand. Was it Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave's pain. The easiest way to get around it is to build relationships with your merchants. let them know who you are, talk to them, especially if you're spending, decent money. Anything more than £2,000-3,000 in a merchant is a nice account. If you any more than that, then you should have a better procurement strategy and somebody really keeping tabs on it. So it's a simple Excel spreadsheet. If you're comparing prices against merchants, highlight which one you've gone to, highlight which cost you've been paid. Then at the end of the month, you should be paying. Then at the end of the month, when your invoices come through, you can check then against that you've been quoted £6 for a piece of timber, and you've been charged £6, and then you can keep it as a record. But the biggest thing to do this is build your relationships with the suppliers, and also you'll find that the more you start picking up on that, the more you'll start to see that they do average out. But the main thing here is agree the rates. Tell the merchants you want these prices assigned to your account. Make sure you've got a trade card where you pay as you go, or a credit account, so they can assign them and get a good relationship with one or two people within that merchant. And procurement strategies are a fantastic subject. Obviously, I've done it for 18 years, and you can do really well at buying, but also I understand those pain. I used to get it all the time with people who, we used to win business based on just consistent pricing. So yeah, if you're spending a lot of money, no, Dave, I wouldn't use Wix's and B&Q. But if you're a smaller builder or tradesman, then yeah, easily it's more consistent. But I'd highly recommend getting in your merchants, telling them that you're not happy with the consistent, and if they're no good, go and find another one. There's plenty of them out there.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic of conversation, because I had this issue literally last week. So our oven's packed up. So we've been borrowing a mate's air fryer for the last week. And my mum has an AO membership. Is it AO? And
Yeah.
I also have a buying group card. I won't say which one. And basically went to AO and said, I need, a new oven for this. And on my mum's discount for hers, she was getting 20% discount, where I was only getting 9% on the buying group card. So if you're getting these sort of discount cards, probably best to get them individually with the merchants, where they'll see that you're potentially going to come back for a repeat business, as opposed to just sort of one-off purchases based on
100%.
what it is that you're going for.
Interesting fact with appliances. So I am well in with, I won't say the name in case I get shot for telling me this, but there's a very good kitchen supplier within the UK who is a trade kitchen supplier. And I was buying a kitchen this time actually for my dad, and they told me to go and buy the appliances elsewhere, because they'd be able to give us a bigger discount off the units and everything else. And the reason being is the whole ticket price has to be at a certain margin. And because they have to compete with the likes of AO and people like that, they have to sell the appliances at such low margin, they have to kick the prices back up on the kitchen cabinets. So they did actually say to me that, yeah, they'll happily match it, but unless we have a burning desire to go to them, they actually said, let us do everything else and go and buy the appliances.
Brilliant. And that was probably down to the relationship that you built with them, that they were willing to give you that information. So
100%.
yeah, it pays to be friends with these people.
100%.
Great. So we'll get on to our next one. But guys, if you have got questions, please do raise your hand or submit them in the chat. We'd love to take another live call. So please do call. It's like a radio phone-in show, isn't it? We're the James O'Briens of of property. But yeah. So guys, yeah, if you want to submit your questions, please do. We'd love to hear from you. I've got another one from Sonia. So Sonia is a UK Homes Network member, and she has put in, we have stripped out one of the rooms back to brick, and the lintel above the window is timber. Can I leave it or shall I replace it?
Oh, we used to do a lot of refurbishment projects in my previous job for an estates company.
Yeah.
And the estates manager, he won't mind me saying this if he ever did click on, used to say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So so with it, what I would say is a timber lintel is not great. So there's two things here. If you're replacing the window, 100% go and change the lintel, because a decent window manufacturer would not let you, installer would not let you keep the timber lintel, because there's no proof that it's going. Now, the argument this will be, especially if it's a client and you don't want to spend the money, will be, but it's not caused any issues before. No, you're perfectly right. It's absolutely fine. However, right now you've got a room back to brick and you've exposed wood. Wood rots, wood gets damp. Concrete and steel lintels don't. So all I'm saying is that potentially you've been lucky, but any leak, any damp inside the house, if that gets into that wooden lintel, will rot it over time. And what you're probably about to do is to line your walls with stud work, plasterboard with insulated plasterboard on top, and cover it up. Which, if you're doing this as a development, it's never going to affect you. If you're doing this as a home or something for longevity, could come back and bite you one day. And if you've plastered and you have completely refurbished this house for the sake of a bricklayer for a day and the cost of a lintel, on the whole scale of things, I would always advise my clients, and I always have done in the past, to replace it. Having said that, if there's no signs of cracks and you are doing it as a development, would a structural engineer tell you to replace it? Like me, they would advise you to replace it, but it's not a necessity.
Yeah. The one thing that I used to see all the time was a particular era of double glazing, was the 1970s aluminium frame glazing, where basically they take the timber lintel out when they put the double glazing in, and then the entire weight of the window frame would now be supported by the aluminium window frame. So they'd basically go in, do the project, realize they need new double glazing, and they'd put the UPVC in, and instantly the brickwork would sink and all these cracks started to appear. Yeah, a lot of issues that can come that way if it's not looked after. So yeah,
one thing, yeah, 100%. And if you're doing a development and you're stripping it back down to brick, always have a contingency for structural repairs and put it in if you don't find any, especially if it's really old. I mean, if anyone's done any of these, you'll find there's timber randomly added in the middle of a wall in places and stuff like that. I can send some great pictures. And stuff like that. So yeah, have a contingency for stuff like that. But if you are doing it as a development, you could get away with it if there's no major defects showing. If you're doing it as a long-term rental or as a property for yourself, I would highly recommend doing it.
Right. Next question we've got sent in from Tarek. So Tarek's asking, we are negotiating on a refurb property and there is a crack going down the rear elevation. He's asking what needs doing.
Oh my God, I don't know. Right, so this is great, this is. And so if you're doing this for a refurb, there's something wrong without a shadow of a doubt. Now, that crack might be 20 years old and it has not moved in 20 years. That crack could be really new. So the two things to look out for: if that crack goes all the way down to the footing, below your damp course, that is more than likely a footing issue. Could be just that drains have collapsed and wash your footing away. Could be that there's no footing. So then I would say that's potential underpinning. So depending on the value of the property and the cost you've got into refurbishment, your costs are starting to escalate a little bit. So with that, that's one potential. Another potential is that it just over time, the brickwork has parted. A lintel's been replaced, for example, and it's just parted the brickwork. Things do move in construction. So it might be that if it's actually just gone from a lintel and it's on render, that the lintels move, the windows move slightly, and it's formed a hairline crack. That might just be something called stitching bars, which is a relatively cheap repair compared to some refurbishment repairs, where you just stitch in reinforcement bars into between the brickwork, tie it back in, and then refill it with mortar, depending on the size of them. However, regardless, here I'm back to my old friend. People shoot me for saying this, and you might disagree with me, Chris, as well, because you're from it, but if it's a really old property and you've got work to be done and you're buying it as a refurb, instead of a surveyor, employ a structural engineer. So if you're going to pay, if there's obvious signs, because unless you get a really good surveyor and pay all the singing or dancing project, they're going to tell you what's wrong with it. They don't necessarily tell you what the remedy is to fix it. And also, you can't use a surveyor's report to actually give you the right remedy if you take on the build. Whereas if you pay for a structural engineer to come and visit site, do a report, then you've got the document to tell you what work needs doing. So if you're negotiating prices with the sale, that's more powerful, because if you're going to buy it as well, you've already got the work done, you're ready to go, you know how much it's going to cost. So, a surveyor's report is great if you don't think there's much work, and, I know mortgage companies insist on it. But if you're doing this as, say, a cash or a private investor flip, and there are a few structural issues, go straight for a structural engineer, because they're going to give you a realistic idea of what needs doing. They may even give you a guide on cost. But if not, they'll give you a really good document, which, rather than saying to the best is, and I used to be, on the other end of that phone, is when someone used to ring me up and go, "A crack in my wall, how much will it cost to fix?" I haven't got a clue. But if you've got a structural report and you can snip that and send it to your mate, your new contractor or your new builder who you're getting into bed with, or even just somebody in the area, and go, "This is the problem. This is what the structural engineers say in remedy. Here's a photo of it. Any chance you could give me a rough guide on budget?"
You said about underpinning. It used to be, as a rule of thumb, it was £1,000 a foot for underpinning. Was that just made up sort of myth, or was that?
Yeah, it can do. The issue with underpinning is, are you going from both sides of the wall? So are you going from inside the house and outside the house? Or are you underpinning? It all depends how much has got to be done as well, because if the whole side of a build needs underpinning, you have
Yeah,
to skip every so many, and the structural engineer or the designer will tell you which formation. Now, you might be doing that in 5 separate stages, which is costly. You may find it's just under the corner of a building, which will be quite cheap. Everyone runs really scared of underpinning, but actually it's not that. Some instances are not that bad. It depends how severe it is. On that, I never like guessing underpinning unless there's a structural engineer's report. When I budget, and if I do budget and someone tells me there's a sign of underpinning, I literally will pick a decent PC sum out there and go, roughly we've allowed 4 meters. A grand a foot is probably a little overkill.
yeah,
I've heard of a grand a meter, but it all depends on how much needs doing.
right. That could be my imperial brain swipping between metric and
Oh,
imperial. Um,
yeah, as I said, when it comes to stuff like that, if there's not a structural engineer's design, you need that, and I wouldn't really recommend proceeding unless you're getting it at a ridiculously low price, which allows you to spend 10 grand on underpinning if it needs it. Then I would be then going back to them and going, "We need to get a report done here," and whatever the outcome is, that may be negotiated on price.
yeah, I'd really about what you said about surveyors and getting a structural engineer out is really, really important. I once sold a house that basically had, from the outside, quite obvious structural issues. It was a wimpy no finds, so they don't hide problems when they've got them. And the surveyor went into the house and basically said, "Oh yeah, it's red ash. Obviously the red ash has expanded and it's caused cracks, and anyone that's ever dealt with red ash, they know it's just a pain in the ass because the whole floor has to be lifted, and you have to clear it all out." But this particular buyer decided, no, I'm not going to take the surveyor's word for it, let's get a structural engineer out, and found that although there was signs of the red ash being porous and had expanded, actually there was a drainage collapse below one of the corners of the building, which was causing the cracking to happen. So he could have spent all that money in fixing the red ash and relaying it, but then the issue would have still been underfoot. So wouldn't have known that without a structural engineer. So yeah,
100%. 100%. Funny enough, I've just looked on a guide I use called Spons, and underpinning per meter now is approximately 1,500 to 2,500. So yeah, that sort of gives you the average. But as I said, I hate averaging underpinning, and I wouldn't recommend it. I would get a report done, and I would get a fixed price from a contractor.
Right. How many feet are in a meter? 2?
3 point something, isn't it?
I was way off then. Never mind. I was just trying to see if I could justify my estimates there, but never mind.
You weren't far off, but you know what? If I was viewing a property and I didn't want to go paying for structural engineers, your figure's probably what I'd use. Just
Yeah.
because I think you can, with stuff like that, if you're budgeting property developments and we've got a really exciting product coming out, which is going to help people do that, I would overkill it. And I'd go, right, actually, if we're allowed 6 grand and it comes in at 4, that's a nice bit of extra profit. But if you can make the numbers work on 6 grand budget for underpinning, if it comes under less, then fantastic. It's far too many people when budgeting refurbishments, whether it's for their own property or whether it's for a development, try and make the figures work, and it just doesn't work. And that's why so many people go over budget.
Right. So we've got a question from Paul, and this is quite an interesting segue question actually, because we were just talking about digging up floors. He says my builder is saying I need to dig up my old kitchen floor where it meets the new floor of the extension. Is he right?
Yes and no. It's a shame Paul's not on the call. So with that, then there's 2 methods. No, not necessarily. As from a building control and a technical point of view, no, you don't have to, unless there's 2 methods here. They're having underfloor heating, and they want underfloor heating across the new and old. So just to make everyone clear, I think what's happened with Paul is he's had a rear extension, and the rear extension or the side extension meets the old part of the building. They've knocked the wall out, they've had the steel put in, and now the 2 floors are meeting in the middle. What you've got here is difference in substrate, and what's going to happen is the new floor is still going to settle. Don't get scared, but it moves a few millimeters. So there's one thing here. There's a few things. If you're having underfloor heating throughout, more than likely the old floor is not insulated as well as the new floor. In that case, then you're going to have an efficient underfloor heating working in the extension and not working as well in the old part. So there's ways and means around that. You can do an overlay insulation board, which is expensive, and you know, you don't usually do that over new floors. Or it might be because the builder is actually a really good builder and worried about the expansion and the floors leveling and then moving. And if they're having tiles, for example, that's the famous one when you start to see people are having pop tiles and the grouts cracking. There's 2 ways around it. The cheapest method is to have an expansion gap through the middle. So whatever your final floor covering is, you have a expansion trim, and then that means if the floors move at different rates, you're not going to end up cracking your floors. But if you're having underfloor heating and you go into that expense across, for what it is, dig your floors out, honestly, because you'll regret it later on. I priced a job the other day where they're only having underfloor heating in the extension, and it was a big square room, and half of it wasn't going to be underfloor heating, and I just didn't understand whatsoever why you'd even bother with that expense. So the builder may be right with that. I wouldn't say a builder is just trying to get more money out of them, because removing an old concrete floor is a horrible, horrible job within it. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's a money grab from the builder, but I'd probably ask them just to discuss the options and explain why.
Right. Tony, we're almost hit an hour. So what I want to do is just remind people of where they can find that course before we go to our final question. So Tony, remind everyone how to access Help You Build.
Great, bear me a second. So, can you see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Bear me a second, technically. Bear me a second, Chris, technical slight issue.
But yeah, guys, if you haven't signed up to UK Homes Network, we'd love to have you in there. Tony is one of our most active members, and you'll be able to carry on the conversation with Tony after tonight's call. So all you have to do is, if you click the link that I've just put in the chat, app.ukhomesnetwork.com, or you can search UK Homes Network in your app store. It's a free social media platform that you can sign up to and start networking with nearly 2,000 property professionals across the country, all talking about their projects, what they're working on, sharing advice, support, information, and generally it's quite a difficult industry to be in right now. So it's fantastic to see everyone coming together in the app and obviously sharing some of the success stories, but also some of the challenges that they're going through. We'd love to have you in there, so please do make sure you join UK Homes Network. But Tony, back to help you build. So you've got...
Yeah, help you build online course. We are doing a reduction in price for people on this call at £125. I'm going to stick the link in the chat in a second. But if you scan that QR code, it will take you through to my link tree and the help you build courses on there. So if you put the code in there, clinic125, it will reduce it down to £125 for lifetime access. And also with that, I will contact you and arrange a free 1 hour one-to-one where we can talk about anything construction related. I won't bother talking to me about football because I don't know a fat lot about it, but we can talk about general stuff if you really want to. But genuinely, you've got me for an hour, whether you wanted to go through a budget, whether you want to appraise some sites, whether you want to talk about looking for contractors. You know, we could do that live on air, on the call and start looking through whether you've had some quotes off contractors, all that sort of thing. But the course itself will give you a great foundation into construction. It'll be very similar to what we've done this evening. And yeah, if you scan that QR code, also with that, if you scan that QR code, it will take you through to all my socials. I post loads of free content and advice on there, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, etc. Please connect with me and share with me your projects as well. I'm always interested in seeing that. Yeah, if you know, more than happy. So that's a one-time offer of 100. I may do it of another one later on, but yeah, it's a sterling offer. I'm also saying to people that if you don't take anything from the course and you find it zero value, I'll give you a refund, because I'm that confident that you'll get some real value for that cost. You'll take something away from it, even if you already know some of the stuff.
That's amazing. I've also put the link in the chat for everyone, so if they want to access that course, they can. And we'll also post it in UK Homes Network this evening. So if you want to check that out at a later stage, please do. Tony's put the discount code in there for you. So we've got our final question from Ahmed. So in terms of building control, my architect says my builder or me can act as a principal designer. Will this be okay?
Right. I hate building control. One of the plans with the construction clinic will be to I know somebody who's got a consultancy service who just deals with building control, and building control will be such a hot topic at the minute. So there's changes a year or so ago with building control where you have to have a principal designer, a principal contractor, and you as the principal client. Unfortunately, you as the principal client is now responsible for everything. Basically, so many people, and because of Grenfell, were suing building control that not only did they decide to make all their building control officers have to go and get a degree, even if they were in their late 50s and 60s and had done it all their life, they now turned it into professional qualification. They also turn around and go, you can no longer offer any advice whatsoever. You can only say yes or no, and it is a proper computer says no situation in certain building controls. Anyway, back to the question. Ultimately, as a client, you can become the principal contractor and you can become the principal designer, but you are responsible for everything. And unless you are highly experienced, I would not recommend it. Some building control firms will also kick back and go, please, can you prove to me how you are knowledgeable enough to be the principal designer, or how you are knowledgeable enough to be the principal contractor. If you've done a number of builds, that would clarify, that would probably satisfy them. In terms of this question in particular, The reason the architect doesn't want to be a principal designer is they have a duty of care to check that building is built to their design. And also their insurances have gone up massively because of that, because they're now responsible. The principal contractor is responsible to building it to design. The principal designer is responsible to ensure it is designed and follow to design. So in answer to that, no. The unfortunate thing is here is your architect has now probably had all the money. They'll give you a design and you will find it very, very difficult to find another architect to commit to that design. So one thing I teach in the course is to say to people, when you find an architect, one of the first questions, apart from how fancy your CGIs are, is will you act as a principal designer? And that's the best thing I can advise to people is right at the start, ensure the architect will do that. There are firms out there now who are solely taking on the building regulation design, built drawings and acting as principal designer, but it's a little bit of a sketchy area. And yeah, I'd make sure from day one that you've got that covered.
Great stuff. Well, I hope everyone's found that useful this evening. We will be back on the 22nd with another edition of the construction clinic. So make sure you've got your questions ready for that one. Keep us updated with any projects that you have mentioned on this evening's call. We'd love to know how you get on. Tony's left his links in the chat, so please do make sure you use those. Yeah, we'll look forward to the next one. That's going to be 7 o'clock on the 22nd. Details for that will follow in UK Homes Network, so make sure you're in the app to receive full details of that. Tony, is there anything else you'd like to plug or say before we finish up tonight?
No, thank you all very much. If you do want any assistance with any of your projects, drop me a message, connect with me in any of my social, tell me you were on this call tonight, and I'm a very accommodating person and I often help people just because it's nice to help people. So yeah, drop me a message and I'll see how I can help. Whether it, as I said, never think in construction a question is small or trivial, because more than likely you are also answering the same question, asking the same question as a lot of others. But thank you. It's been a really good night. Questions have been superb.
Fantastic. All right, guys, have a lovely rest of your evening. And we look forward to seeing those posts and those questions being put to Tony and the UK Homes Network. And until next time, we'll see you then.
Thank you.